CAB Policy and Budget Subcommittee meeting. We are going to go ahead and get started. Today's date is Monday, August the 19th. So we'll go ahead and get started with the agenda. First, welcome, introductions, and announcements. My name is Nicole Green. I am the chair of Policy and Budget, and I cover East County. And whoever wants to go first.
Go for it.
Jeff Robinson, I'm a committee member representing Central County.
Justin Van Zerber, Vice Chair, West County.
Staff in the room,
Patrice Guillory, Office of Reentry and Justice.
staff on Zoom,
Garyana Youngblood, also with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
and guest on Zoom.
Jana Evans, Lead Reentry Transition Specialist, Office of Education.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. So we will do announcements. Is this a time where I can do the announcement regarding the chair and all that kind of stuff? Okay, so I wanted to pin this here. I know that we haven't really had a full board meeting, but I've been waiting to get us all in one room. So we received an email from Garyana in reference to Ozzy stepping down as chair. So I stepped into that role until we go to the full CAB meeting to see if anybody else would like to be chair, or if there wants to agree, high five vote. What that means is I still want to continue in supporting or being a part of policy and budget, because this is like my baby. So I want to have a discussion of what does that mean for us. So I need help. I can't run this meeting and be chair at the same time. So I was looking for someone to be able to step up and be chair. What that pretty much means is I will still have my hands in the pot in here, supporting, just being able to help with creating the documents for me and just taking some of the weight off of me because I can't do both. So I was really hoping that one of you.
I nominate Justin.
Oh, I'm like, oh my God, I thought he was.
I nominate Jeffrey.
Rock, paper, scissors. So again, it's more, and so I'll put it to you this way. We have a nice bucket of individuals that are in, that have applied to be a part of CAB. And we know we have to get everybody up to board. There's a few people that I'm excited about that actually can go into each committee, but we want to have a full board meeting.
Yeah.
So eventually it will come to a point that we should have enough people, hopefully here, where maybe someone more would have stepped in. My suggestion, and I'll be particularly honest, Jeffrey is newer to us and he's learning and gave great insight. And you are very familiar with what we've done so far. So it's just helping with, and I'll still be here. You want me to back stuff? Oh, Jay's here.
We're here.
So it's not dropping anything.
Like, y'all looking at me.
Look, because if I can lead both, trust me, I tried to, Patrice. If I could do all of it, I would be all the hats, but I
Yeah.
can't. And it was unexpected that
Yeah.
she stepped down. And we pray that she's well with her health
Yeah.
and doing better. So I just immediately just jumped in. So the best way that we can do it to where I can still finish this out with you guys and do that, that was the recommendation I wanted to put forth. So if you add more, did I get it all?
No, I think you have it right. I think the other piece too to note is that, the full CAB, and I don't know if you wanted to talk about our work of trying to ensure that we do meet quorum for the next
Okay.
full CAB meeting. Because we have a CCP meeting that's scheduled on the 20th. We have a full slate of applicants that will need to be approved by CAB at its next September meeting in time to be approved for the next CCP meeting. Otherwise, you have to wait till November. So just kind of see this as a somewhat of a minor shakeup, if you will, with having Ozzy stepping down. We did also have another member who also resigned, Latanya Thompson.
Yes.
So all to say, but that means we have 4 applicants who
Right.
need to be reviewed by the full CAB. So that means that's other opportunities for other members to join to help share the load, things of that nature. So just know that it's, if right now, if it feels like, oh, wait, that's a lot of responsibility, just know ORJ is here to support you. Or you, Jeff, whoever decides. And then you also have other applicant or you will have members who can potentially help you.
So this is great. I appreciate the vote of confidence. I think the time is not a concern for me and like capacity and willing to do it. It's if there's additional in-person stuff that's required, it's really challenging for me right now. I'm traveling a lot for work and personally. And so that has been a barrier.
Right.
And I know you all do like agenda planning meetings. And so if there's additional responsibilities, I would need to know.
So that's how we would work together, because I know that your schedule can,
Yeah.
like stand. So we do have those meetings. Even though I'm moving out of the seat, we'll be able to talk to each other.
Oh,
Well, if you're
Not about that.
we won't
Yeah.
be
if you-
on.
Well,
Well, not about that stuff, more of a,
yeah, because if you're still staying as part of the committee,
we
you
won't be
still
able to talk
can't
to
be
each
with
other.
me.
Okay,
So we may have to do something where we have a separate meeting with you in advance to the
Oh,
leadership meeting
okay.
to share with you all what we got from him as chair
okay,
to then.
okay.
Can we do that virtually?
Yeah. So those
Yeah,
meetings,
sure.
those.
We don't do
leadership
those in
agenda
person.
Okay.
Meeting, planning meetings are virtual.
The only thing that we do in person, and you don't really have to come in person, even when they invite us to come to CCP, I mean, the chair usually goes, we do ask sometimes if the vice chair or if the chair of that committee comes if needed. But if you can't make it, it's completely understood, and there has been times where I've done it via Zoom.
Yeah.
So, it won't be any addition added. It's more of just support here, because I can't do
Yeah.
both hats.
Sure.
Yeah, the only other items to also consider is that, the most pressing thing for this subcommittee is the providing an update on those two additional priority areas, which will be for the CCP meeting, obviously, I'm a candidate, but then also for, PPC,
Right.
which will be that first meeting in October. First Monday in October, that's right, yes.
Usually
afternoon.
usually we will present, like I used to present with Crawford, but if for some reason it messes with your schedule, as long as it's written up, then I can just present it. Not like if there's something that you can't make it to, as the chair, I can definitely present out what's created.
We have,
And the PPC meeting is usually virtual too.
Right.
do we have a policy and subcommittee on the 20th as well?
Policy and budget,
September.
we're gonna move those around. That's gonna be
Okay.
one of our topic items.
Got it.
So I'll get to that at the.
And if I can add, the CCP meetings on the 20th, and it's in that room, so that meeting has to be rescheduled.
Right.
Yeah.
What time is that meeting again?
10:30 to 12, like that,
Is that okay to be virtual?
with
The-
the policy and budget.
Yeah.
meeting.
No, the CCP meeting.
Yeah, you can join that virtually.
Okay. Okay, so what do we need to do? The steps.
Oh, are you, so I'm guessing that Justin has been nominated to be chair of policy and budget subcommittee. And, you can call a motion to approve, or, no, what, do you accept? I guess, sorry. do you accept?
It doesn't sound like we have enough. So, yes.
Okay, all right, so he has accepted his nomination.
I mean, I don't mean to put it negatively.
I'm like,
That hurts.
I nominated Jeffrey, he
don't.
didn't accept.
Don't have any other options.
Yeah.
so for the meetings, would he lead it, or would I be able to continue to lead it for him?
As chair, he would lead,
Okay.
he would facilitate
Ready?
anything.
Starts next month, right?
Okay, so, we call a motion to make,
Does that make him vice chair then? Cause I'm gonna take full advantage of that.
yeah.
That's what's needed. I mean, I know.
You guys will be fine.
You'll be great.
It'll be great.
I'll be in the wing.
I'm excited.
All right, so, let me say this right. So we nominate, I'm about to call you Jeffrey.
You can do that.
So we nominate Justin to be the chair of policy and, can I do it together? I gotta.
You can do it.
Yeah, that's fine.
I nominate Justin to be the chair of policy and budget and Jeffrey to be the vice chair of policy and budget.
You can do it both.
All in favor?
Yes, aye.
Aye. Ariana?
Motion carries.
I don't know. I think I took.
It's all above the board.
As of September. All right. Okay, so that was the,
And that's all under announcements, I guess.
yeah, is there any
Anything
other
else?
announcement?
Anything else?
I don't have any other announcement. Anybody else?
I do want to share, but she's not here today. You all have had interaction with, our research and evaluation manager, Denise Subcommittee. She will be retiring the beginning of September. But she has certainly, under her leadership with our research and evaluation team, have always provided updates and guidance to the CAB. So I just wanted to uplift that, uplift her.
She's amazing.
Congratulations to her.
Denise was the first person that trained me when I walked into this reentry world. Yeah,
Yeah,
she is. She'll be missed. Any other announcements in the room? Any announcements on Zoom? Okay, so we will go ahead and, well, I wanted to stop for a second because we have 3 new people that stepped into the room. Do you want to do introductions? Brown boy? Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Tamia Brown. I'm the Executive Director for the Workforce Development Board of Contra Costa County.
Thank you. And then, Jill and Michelle.
Sorry, I'm eating my lunch. Jill
Okay.
Wright, Office of Supervisor Candace Anderson.
Hi, everyone. Michelle Elizondo, Program Coordinator with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you. All right, so then we'll move on to number 2, which is public comment on any item under the jurisdiction of the Community Advisory Board and not on this agenda. Do you have any public comment? Seeing none, we will move right along. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the July 19th Policy and Budget Subcommittee meeting, which is attachment 1, starting on page 4 through 6. So I will be looking for a motion to approve in a second, and then we can kind of review. Missed that one, right?
Mhm. So I don't know that I can motion.
So it just be me and you voting. You missed that one.
Okay.
More motion. This is Nicole, I motion.
I second the motion. This is Jack.
I think that's a day. What did he say when he wasn't
I
here?
abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, so Nicole,
Aye.
Jeffrey,
Aye.
Justin,
Abstain.
motion carries.
Thank you. All right, now to the fun stuff. So we're going to move to agenda item number 4, which is to review the AB 109 Access Funds recommendations, which is on attachment 2, pages 7 through 16. This actually ties with number 5, so we can, it actually goes to 5 and 6. We really wasn't going to review, kind of recap what our objectives here today. Last month, we had the Jimmer project as well as Centerforce come in and do a presentation, which is included. So today is our goal to kind of taking everything that we have from last month, as well as the document that was provided by GI, and then we have our guest here in reference for, and then data in here as well regarding the employment piece. And to discuss those 3 pending items, which was the GI, women's services, and employment, so that we can get prepared for the upcoming CCP meeting and our response for those items. Is there anything that you wanted to, anyone wanted to, before I just go past the recommendations, wanted to kind of look back at before we go into our main items? Okay. Did you all have a second to, I know you weren't here at that last one, you have a second to kind of look at the Jimmer project
Mhm.
information?
Yeah. I'm just refreshing myself.
So Gariana, we're gonna go to, I'm going to jump to number 5, because it kind of goes hand in hand together, which starts on page 17. So we can start off with our debrief of the gender responsive services. One of the recommendations that came from CCP was to allocate a bigger amount. So the purpose of having the Jimmer project come back was for them to do a full presentation on their programs and services and the amount, not that they recommend, give us an idea of the amount it takes to run their program, and also have Centerforce come back as well to give more data. And they also gave us, I don't want to say a recap, but an outline of additional funding that they may need or the costs for their program, and then figure out how much more we want to uplift that section in reference to our recommendations. For the Jimmer project on page 22, I believe, outlines their cost to operate their program. And of course, and just to refresh my memory, because I made notes, our goal was we allocated 2 million to the GI pilot. We're going to go back to our original amount, the 1 million, and then use that additional 1 million and kind of allocate towards the women's program and employment. That's where I think we left
I
off.
think that's where CCP was trying to help us do. Patrice, do you have a baseline of how much Center Force is contracted each year for these services? Because in their narrative, it says we need an additional 5,000. Am I reading that right? On page 27.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I believe. So they did right here that 82,000 total, on page 26 of the packet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. That was what I was looking for. Thank you. And these are the questions they answered on page 25. That's what they're already doing? Or is that what they're proposing they could do?
And this is what they're already doing.
Mhm.
Got it. Okay. But the Gemma project is not doing any of this
Not out here.
yet.
Yeah, no, not.
Not out in Contra Costa County.
Got it.
Do it in
Got it,
Alameda
got it.
County.
And what are we trying to get to?
So the overall goal is to increase the amount that we allocated for women's services in custody post-release.
Mhm.
So the baseline that we used was based off of Center Force, the 450. And we increased that. Was it, wait, I'm sorry, I'm
750.
blind, 750. Sorry.
I mean, do we want to hear from the employment pathway before we decide to see how much
Yeah.
we might have left?
Now, one thing to note too, on page 24 of Jim's response, and when Cynthia was here last time, she did mention that what she's recommending in terms of a allocation is actually exceeds whatever it is that they would typically utilize for their services, because their program is mostly the in-custody program. So they're taking into account then post-release.
Got it.
And so this last line here, the Gemma project, we're allocating anywhere between 900,000 to 2 million. And what that would go for. And they're not necessarily requesting that for them in their program, but just overall in terms
Right.
of the super responsive services.
One of the other key things that she did add, the title to what Patrice said,
Sure.
is willing to looking at services that other programs are providing. So like she said, it's not going directly to general, but how she outlined job and career development
Mhm.
and things of that nature, looking at, collaborate with other programs and looking at the services that other programs provide and ensure that it's gender responsive.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Did we call any of that out in our other sections with regard to housing and behavioral health?
Gender responsive?
Yeah,
No, so we just allocated the amount. It is something to highlight when it's actually going through the next phase of it,
yeah.
to make sure that's highlighted in there.
Maybe we add that adaption to the narrative, because I really think that's important, right? Is that we can have gender responsive intentions through all of these different components. It doesn't just have to be its own line item, right? So like housing should have a gender specific response as well. Both looking at me like I'm lost.
No, I'm following you. I'm just thinking.
Because that was a priority for the larger board, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think I'm just kind of talking broadly. I don't know if I have.
No, it makes sense. I'm just thinking. It does make sense. So housing, ensuring that there is because I know in each sector that is something that's being uplifted in housing, in behavioral health,
Okay.
and employment. So that is across the board.
Mhm.
Gender responsive services is being lifted and need to be implemented in it. So I think it's a great that you notate that we would like to ensure that the programs narrative have a gender responsive.
I can add that.
So my question of concern is, are we changing the rules after the game is almost played? Because people presented to us, right? And we didn't put that to them in the beginning. That was a requirement of something that we would like them to address. We didn't say it in the beginning.
Mhm.
Right.
So now to say it, it's almost like we're changing the rules that the game is almost over.
Well, no, we're just adding that factor in there. It's not going to change the rules for the existing individuals because this money isn't going to just one direct person.
So we're talking about going forward, that's
Right.
something, okay. I
Yes.
thought we were expecting that of people who
No.
already presented what they,
Oh, no.
No,
I
no,
think
no,
it's just including it in the recommendation to
Right.
CCP.
okay, all right.
Are you comfortable with that?
Is that-
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
No, if you want to jump over to the employment part. Look at that real quick. So that is on page 28, attachment 4. There's a sample county pilot for Santa Clara County Employment Support 5 program.
Yeah, so if I can give context to some of these pieces here, I managed to get in touch with a colleague over at County of Santa Clara, where they've implemented a similar project, working directly with their human resources department to determine a pathway for folks who, I think in this case, it's specifically folks who are in the reentry community, or at least vulnerable populations, give them a pathway into county employment. So this is sort of a snapshot of, they call it the Employment Support and Classified Program. And this just kind of gives you a snapshot of how they walk through the hiring process with HR. And where some of the placement some of the placement units or departments, if you will, that were identified for entry-level positions where folks could be placed. So you guys can take a minute to review some of that. On page 30 of the packet, you'll see some of the classifications that were identified.
page 31 talks about what this ESUP process looks like. From receiving application all the way from recruiting, evaluation period to the written exam. Some of these things are quite kind of technical because they're within the HR realm of that county. So I can't say with great specificity whether or not a lot of these pieces or elements can be transferable, but nonetheless, it kind of gives you just a general sense of how another county has done that. So that's what's before you, and they also created a manual to
really
sort of
cool.
govern this program. What I've been told, and it's held under their Office of Diversion and Reentry Services, what I've been told is that actually the program is currently on pause, unfortunately. So they weren't able to provide any updated information in terms of how well it's working and things of that nature. I believe there are some budgetary concerns that they're experiencing at the moment, but this is just at least something to give you as another example of another county that's done this. And then we have Tamia Brown, who's here from Workforce Development Board. She'll be able to also share experiences that they're having within their department, doing testing a very similar process. So we have actually a local experience here. And then she's also familiar with, I think you all heard at the last CCP meeting, last couple of CCP meetings, where Chief talked about her experience with a similar project in Alameda County. And so to me, it's from that, is also familiar with that project and kind of could speak to what were some of the lessons learned or challenges there. But I'll say that these are kind of just some examples for you guys to kind of pull or pull some pieces of information together to kind of help you formulate a more general idea of how this sort of county pathway for employment could potentially look like from HR perspective, the client perspective, all those kind of pieces. And what I loved about this is with this manual, it gives you that documentation of how this program is to work. Now, how it was, oh yeah, it was endorsed by the board of supervisors. So it was certainly something that was board approved and had to be implemented. This was believed through their HR department. So I'll pause there and give you guys an opportunity to look over the information, or if you want to, if you got any questions.
I don't have any questions. I definitely want to hear from Tamia. I don't have any questions about the Santa Clara. I was very excited to see this because I reported to our summit. I've heard about the program, but to see it written out was very exciting, especially the version program, because we don't really have that here. And when they came to our everyone on the summit, they had the staff, some of the stuff that they actually had went through this particular process. And I believe they brought another staff member that went through the whole thing and now works for that particular, it was a lot of staff that was there. So it's much more just Catholic Charities. There was Goodwill and some others. So to kind of see this written out and then remember what the feedback they gave us at that meeting, I've been trying to really see how they had that outline. So it was nice to kind of see that on paper. For me, it's the cost, like what is the, that part of to run something like this, what does that cost? That's where we kind of left off at our last meeting is, we don't know the amount it takes to run a pilot program from an employment standpoint. We'll love your feedback in reference to Alameda County and Contra Costa County, but that's the biggest part for me, because what we're being asked to is to increase that or possibly increase that amount, but we don't know what to increase it to.
Well, thank you guys for having me here today. I'm here to kind of give, just some, experience that we've been doing over in the Workforce Development Board under the Employment and Human Services Department. So the Employment and Human Services Department also runs the CC Works and Employment Program, similar to what you see described in the packet, where they've been running this program in the county for years. So individuals who are eligible, who receive CalWorks and are job readiness skills, workshops, resume interviewing, all of those kind of workshop type of activities, they can take advantage of that. And then the county will place them in a subsidized employment opportunity. The program prior to COVID was very robust. People were working well across the county and a lot of positions in EHSD. However, after the pandemic, the program struggled because there's a current waiver where individuals are not required to go back to work. So this waiver is going to continue to develop. There's a lot of funds that are going unspent because individuals aren't taking advantage of the subsidized wage. Now, this is in county and out of county. So we have staff who work with the individuals and we work with businesses to create those agreements with employers that are outside of the county to take advantage of a 6-month subsidized employment. And then there's some other ways that under the workforce board, we can continue that wage subsidy with the on-the-job training, so multiple programs. The program that we have a county pathways program that we try to pilot and really walk through some steps just to see how we can kind of work out some of the kinks. We utilize our individuals who are current WDB participants. They go through the American Job Center and they go through the job readiness work, all of the workshops I've described. And then those individuals were invited to a session to complete county applications. Let me back up a little bit. EHSD has I think a 17 to 20% vacancy rate. And we're trying to fill some of those vacancies specifically in EHSD. So we invited folks that we thought who were in our system that could benefit from this. We had, I don't know, maybe 140 folks come in to an evening workshop. They were able to get help with their resume. They were able to log on, use our career center, fill out the applications, set up their NeoGov, all of those activities. If they needed assistance, staff was right there to walk them through the process. And then after that, individuals who were selected or will be selected, because this is like real time, they will be invited to interview. Now, with these positions that we were working on, we picked one classification. It was I don't even know. Program assistant, yes. I get that. So, these individuals, if they were selected, now there's two parts, right? There's this filling in the application, and then there's the review process, and then there's the, HR to do their due diligence. Individuals, if they were selected and met all the MQs, then are going to be invited to an interview.
An MQ is minimum qualification.
Okay.
So that's really where we are in the project. No feedback as to how many individuals get selected, how many individuals get hired, because that's all PII information. We can't have access to that just yet. Once we can find out, we will be able to say, how the project did. We know it was successful in bringing folks to our center in the evening, giving them that support. Yeah, that was successful, but did it lead to a placement into employment? That is yet to be determined. So I just wanted to put that out there. Now, a project like this, the CC Works project, where we do the subsidized and subsidized wages, I think at its peak, it may have been about $4 or $5 million budget for that type of project, serving maybe 150 clients per year. Now we're serving maybe 60 clients. And some of those folks end up in placement, some of those folks just take advantage of the workshops and services. So very big numbers, very vague numbers about budget. I don't have the specifics. I mean, I could go back and look at how much it would cost an individual. Some of the parameters are we pay $16 to $21 an hour or minimum wage. If the job pays more than that, we would pay up to the $21 an hour, and then the expectation is on the employer to then pay the remaining amount so that that individual can receive that
For that. Individual. If the individual does well and the employer mutual agreement, they can get extended another 6 months. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. Are they willing to, for the CC Works program, are they willing to discontinue their benefits? And then if there's, the funding to support.
I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
Doug, because I'm familiar with the CC Works program and Cal Works, because I used to do step one.
Okay.
So, it went away. I love STEM. So, couple of things. So how many different, type of classifications do you all have? I heard, I think it's a social service program.
So we piloted with one classification. And we're waiting to, we are still in, meetings and discussions and working out the kinks. And we're gonna look at one more classification, which we have a high vacancy rate, and that's an experienced clerk or clerk experience level. So that is on track to start in the next few months. But we're still trying to work through the first phase.
Do you know for the CC Works, have they identified a process to figure out who is justice involved? I'm gonna ask on a whole nother layer.
We do collect that information. It's not required,
Right.
but if the participant provides that information, then we know. So we have other grants. We have our prison to employment grant that the individual can take advantage of supportive services through that. So, we encourage the person to let us know.
Can you talk a little bit more about the prison to employment?
Prison to employment is some regional funding that the Workforce Development Board receives to serve justice involved individuals. And the funding, maybe about $200,000 a year. That funding is contracted out through our provider, which is they're the ones serving individuals, and they run their program.
I'm trying to think of the name too. I'm like,
So
Okay.
they're just leveraging those funds and serving those folks who are under WIOA.
And that kind of goes the same as, I'm just talking, as like the Cal Works, they get them connected to employers and to provide job readiness and training and resume building and all that awesome stuff, so,
Absolutely.
okay.
I do always. One, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. My first is just kind of a thought, and it's like, if we're trying to get people hired with this background in the county, how are we incentivizing the county to participate? Like, what are we doing for these departments in order to have them feel like this should be a priority? And so while you were talking, I was just thinking creatively, is there a way to utilize these funds to offset costs to the county department for wages or for something else so that we can fill some of these vacancies? And also get this population a job opportunity. I think that's the bottom line, right?
Right.
But I wanted to pose the question to you. So like, we put this budget together and allocated on like $250,000 a year or something, $500,000 a year over 3 years towards this concept. And the CCP came back to us and asked for they think that that's not enough funds. In and around that realm of funding, like what do you envision, or how can we carry the work for CC Works forward in parallel of serving directly this population? Like, how do you conceptualize a model that would be beneficial to both the participants and the county to fill these vacancies?
It was actually 1.5
Over 3 years, right?
million.
It's over,
Yeah, 500,000 a year.
yeah, 1.5 over 3 years.
I think you asked a really good question. I think that thinking about how departments benefit should definitely be kind of slogan or,
Right.
because you want people to buy into this, and it does take away, from a staff to train a person, or, it does, affect productivity in the short term, but I think in the long run, right, huge benefit, right? So you gotta be able to tell that whole big story, like, short term gains, long term. I think the CC Works program at its peak was very successful, and I support the model. It is a really good model, right? There are some constraints as relation to, being a state funded program and, the eligibility and all of those different things. But the model is great.
Yeah.
I would say we have about 5 staff who manage this countywide program. That's 3 employment counselors, Central, East, and West County. And you have a support staff, and then you have a manager, right? So that's 5 full-time equivalent staff who are managing the program. I believe it could be expanded. Right now they're just serving CalWorks recipients,
Right.
but to be able to expand the program beyond those eligibility requirements could be in the best interest for the county as a whole. And modeling programs like Alameda County with their temporary employee program, modeling Santa Clara County. It's really a way to increase participants and to be able to get that experience.
The 5 employees, are those part of the county?
So they are
Or
funded,
they're-
the program is state funded, it's a state funded
Yeah.
program. So those staff are funded,
But they're county staff?
county staff.
Okay. It's not like subcontracted to Rubicon or something like that?
No. I think that's a key point, because if we're talking about HR.
Yeah.
You're talking about needing full-time equivalent staff to be able to do this work.
I think my first thought goes to, you were talking about leveraging funding and carrying the dollar as far as we can, is like trying to layer this onto the CC Works program. I'm sure that they're already serving some of this population, right? And so if we could identify that, add some additional capacity in dollars.
So I was gonna ask that, so at one point, it was leveraged like that, where you guys were working, when I worked with staff,
Oh, wow.
we were working with Google, and that was that part of it, that was
Okay.
connected to the county.
Okay.
So we were part of that staff that assisted with that, and then that went away. So it was subcontract. So at one point, there was a sector that focused on the reentry population. And it actually, the structure is amazing. And they were able to subcontract with the provider that provided assistance, and the
Yeah.
majority of those individuals that worked at Goodwill were reentry population. So they also had their county person, and then it was tied on the housing. When that structure dismantled, everything kind of went, all right, so it was just like this. You'll work with us, you'll get you employment, talk to your county worker, and then we'll get you into housing, which you got fully employed. So it was a beautiful,
Cool.
structure, and then life just happened. I don't know why it went away, but it did. So it's been done in Contra Costa County, and just as a previous employee, it was amazing. To be able to see that, and to tie on to the county staff, there was funding for, just for, say, for example, how they're working with Rubicon.
Mhm.
They had a partner in place that did the additional work and tied in with their county workers. So it's a model out there that was done a while ago through Goodwill. Unless I never used Goodwill, but
Yeah.
I think that the best part for me that I like is identifying better options. I like the structure, but Goodwill is not, it's a good starting place.
But
It should not be the be all, and that was the be all. And some people had skills that weren't meant for Goodwill. I was one of them. So there needs to be other opportunities available for individuals, and not let that be the be all. So I think the idea of it is great, because I missed that. It really actually helped people when it was in place. And a lot of individuals, they didn't disclose to their worker that they were, but I don't know how they knew, but that's how they ended up getting over to Goodwill, because it was flagged somewhere that they were just as impacted, and that's why they were referred over to Goodwill for that part of it. So, I don't know how we get that data, but it was there. It was back in like 2018.
Somewhere on a piece of paper.
Yeah, so, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I love the work they're doing and I know about, the other, aspect of it with Rubicon and the opportunity that's there. So I mean, I definitely agree with you on that.
I think really, you hit the nail on the head when you said expanding the employer options, right? So, we're funded to do that work.
Right.
Work with our business community, keep them aware of fair chance hiring and all of the different initiatives we're pushing. But more of that definitely needed.
Yes,
And the time is right, because
it is.
employers need people. They need people.
That's your question.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all circling around the
Yeah,
similar topic. I think for me, I think I would push back on that comment a little bit because I think for me, my intention with this line item was to create a funnel into county jobs for this population, right?
You said you push back on the comment.
Well, you said we were talking about diversifying employer opportunities for the population. And I think my original intent behind this, because it is narrow and it's like the amount of funding is small.
right.
Like trying to get this population.
Absolutely. I was just speaking on the workforce development.
Got it,
as
okay.
a whole.
Okay.
for the county.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
But I think it's great timing for that. I mean, if you hear at the different meetings or presentations that we had, they're opening up space for people that have lived experience.
Yeah,
So it's how do we recommend or something to present it to get buy-in
yeah,
from county jobs? You still have to go through the process. You
Right.
still have to go through the application. It still depends on what your, charges were.
yeah,
Which is something that was also uplifted, is how do we get them, the pilot is to prepare them for that, to know exactly what jobs to apply for. So how do we get into that? I mean, I hear that with the CalWorks one, but we want to make sure we have something in place to do that for our reentry population.
mm-hmm,
So it's getting them prepared because majority of them don't feel like they can apply. They
right,
don't think they qualify. They
Right.
don't go through the whole process. It could take months, and that's the standard time frame I've learned. Because I did first, but it can take about, but it's not, because I did.
Yeah.
The standard time frame is 6 months, so how do we get them prepared ahead of time for that and
Right.
not to give up?
yeah,
Even when they have to go in front of someone and they have to, what's the word for it? If they get a denial, they have to appeal it, to just not, that's the standard process,
Right.
depending on what your charges is. It doesn't mean that you're not getting the job, you just have to go through that step.
Now, maybe you could speak to a little bit when we spoke, when, in terms of setting folks up for what the expectations are, what they should be expecting in terms of the hiring process with the county, but to also not set them up for, with the belief that if they were to go through a program like this, that a job is at the county is still guaranteed.
Right.
So then therefore, what would be the benefits to the participant if at the end of all of that support that was given, they still did not, meet the threshold or was selected for a permanent opportunity?
The messaging has to be very clear. That's one of the challenges we've kind of encountered right now. It's like those folks who came and they participated in all this work, they're not selected. And then we're saying, oh, we have so many vacancies. We have so many vacancies. So the messaging, you hear so many vacancies, I'm going to be selected because you helped me.
Right.
You helped me so that I could get selected, right? That's the messaging. So we have to just be careful about how we do it. And then that goes to, do we expand it to outside of the county opportunities? Do we ask for an industry recognized kind of certificate or credential where folks can take this anywhere? It's not just for Contra Costa County. Well, other counties recognize it, right? Because they have a program in Santa Clara, or they can go right down the street to Alameda County. So it's really about creating something where not only are they walking away with disappointment that they didn't get a job, but they're walking away with this certificate that I can go try somewhere else. Right. Because this is recognized.
I definitely agree with that, and it's really how you sell it. the program itself, like you said, it's not a guarantee you're gonna get in, but through that whole process, you are gaining something, right? Even if you don't get into that county job, there should be some kind of end all, like you said, maybe a certificate goes somewhere else, or there's another opportunity in a different avenue. But it also allows them to kind of figure out where's that why? Why didn't you get in? Maybe there's something that they need to fix. It's not an end to it. It all depends on how it's pitched that individual when they enroll to make sure they understand what they're, but I, just as someone that's lived it, know that it's possible as long as it's pitched right. Because I have to do the whole game. So as long as there's always an end to it to help you develop yourself to get back on track. The resume development, you have someone that walks you through your career, that looks at your charges and tell you what you can and can't get. Refer you to legal if you need to, but pretty much for me, the takeaway is getting your life back on track. It may take you years to get to that end result, but you'll get there, and I think they need hope. So it's just fine tuning the program in that way. I'm a big advocate for success because I've seen it. So I think it's possible to do it.
I do think it needs this formality, like the CC Works program has been happening years over
Right.
years, and there's so many renditions of the program. But having something formal and approved by the Board of Supervisors really, encourages all departments to be involved. So that may be something where the funding could go towards putting something formal together, having someone do the research, pulling the classifications, and really, putting forth a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to be approved.
You have to have HR buy-in for that. We did, so similar to that construct is we did task the HR department with a couple priorities around this of like identifying positions that individuals could be eligible to, starting to track data on hiring and number of interviews for the population and things like that. But that could be like a longer term goal for CAB
Correct,
push towards.
right.
I really like that. I think that's just gonna take a long time and it's gonna
And that's how we
require
came
that
back,
relationship.
and that's how we came back to the pilot to figure out how we
Yeah.
can push forward. We still put that request out, but it's gonna take time for us to get it back.
Yeah. And while you were talking, I totally aligned with the conversation. I think one of the reasons I'm drawn to the Santa Clara model and the use of an external organization to support the work is it allows for that capturing of, okay, this person was not successful in this environment, let's continue to support them and find another pathway. And I don't know if the county can do that. And so I think go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, well, at least for these particular participants, they would still be eligible for the other 81 employment program.
Programs, right?
So that program still can sort of serve as like a catch-all.
Yeah,
So if they weren't successful here, they still would have, and in this case, our employment provider is Rubicon, who's also the
Yeah,
WIOA
right.
operator, right? So they have a lot of different programs that they can still leverage.
yeah. I think for me, I was thinking to kind of, if we could layer it into that, so that way that support system is already identified. So they're not coming to the county, working with someone, failing here, and then they're like, oh, let me hand you off to someone else. It's they're already working with this person and they're trying to get them into the county. I don't know if that could work.
So you mean like this model in here where everyone's pretty much communicating with each other?
Well, I think for the participant, they're only communicating with the supported or the provider. Yeah.
Right, but I mean in
contact.
reference to the providers they're communicating with, that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, we can work to make sure that there's coordination that's happening around that. We're starting to see,
Mhm.
there has been so much growth in terms of programming in the reentry and justice space, where it is requiring coordination
Yes, yes.
of all of these in multiple different spaces. So I would suspect that the same thing would happen
Okay.
in this regard too. RJ was certainly calling up.
I know you will.
Can you guys coordinate?
I don't
You're gonna need some questions when you
Right.
leave, okay?
Listening is a good thing too.
I don't have any additional
I
questions.
guess I have less of a question. than a thing.
There we go.
Again,
Because
Please.
from my personal experience, I just think that, like what you were talking about, like programs that create like certificates, things that people can take other places. I know the county path is a great thing, but the reality, that's a path that could take 5 years, 10 years. It could take a long time to actually get into that stream. I was one of those people who worked in CBOs took me almost 14 years to get my county job.
Yeah.
You know, but I was prepared for it when I got it. And things like my lived experience were actually a plus. The county never once even asked about my past. So, but I had the background to support my position. You know, so something that a person can take anywhere, I think that's a great thing. I guess I think in terms more of livable wage. What'll give somebody a livable wage more so than just say that county?
Right, right.
Is this skill set going to get create a pathway to a livable wage? Because we all know that Contra Costa County, the Bay Area period, is a crazy expensive place to live. So, I mean, if all of this training gets the person into a county job, it pays. I think earlier you talked about $15 to $21 per hour. Is that going to pay for rent in the area? You know, those are things I try to consider. But are there certificates that could get a person a job that say pays more than that? That's what I try to look at. You know, what's going to get that person a livable wage? Well, county, yeah, it might. I mean, if you have the right skill set and the right education, but that in itself takes time. I can't think of many county jobs that don't come with the need for, say, that pay a real high market wage that don't come with the need of at least a bachelor's degree. You know,
You know, some other benefits to consider too in this with the county positions is obviously benefits for sure.
pension.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and representation, you know, with the various labor unions too. So there's some, even if Contra Costa in its pay scale is, let's say, less than other jurisdictions or neighboring counties, there's always other kind of mechanisms that are in place that's, I feel is just as important to highlight folks, especially if that's new for them.
I think when you talk about having a champion, if the county is truly saying that they are having a hard time filling their vacancies, right? And their champion is saying, hey, we're looking at all of our populations in the county to be able to serve it. And we want you, employer, to do the same thing, right?
I think it's I'm thinking of a lot of stuff. Yeah, because I'm thinking about what he said, which is a really important. And it's identifying, I think this go back to identifying the different career pathways. I automatically thought of like the Spirit program that gets individuals into the county job, and they don't have to have that background once you go through that. I mean, that's sure, especially for someone that's dealt with substance abuse and have been in justice involved, that gets them way ahead of a lot. You get right into a peer position, and then after that, you get into, after a couple of years, you go into a county job to make a livable wage. So there's identifying those different sectors on how someone actually get into those positions. I think I agree with her. It's a really good time for this because employers are looking for lived experience. They are across the board. They're looking not just for the BA or the master's degree. They're recognizing that yes, school is important, but school doesn't always cover what is needed right now. And they want someone that has experience that can relate to the population that they're dealing with. A lot of individuals I speak with outside of my regular work, they really want to be in this type of field. They want to be the mentors. They want to be the counselors. They want to be in a position to be able to work in some kind of field that ties into their population. So maybe identifying not just the status quo, type of jobs, but what are some So great jobs that could benefit our population where they can make livable income. I mean, some of our CBOs hired them. And some people are now directors and stuff of the program, so it's possible. That's what was playing in my mind. At this moment, it's so many
And maybe even
opportunities.
looking at those departments that are already doing that
Mhm.
work, so obviously EHSD, health services and their
Mhm.
various units are hiring folks with lived experience. We now probation can say we're hiring folks with lived experiences with the community associate positions. I'm sure there are others, they're not coming to mind at the moment, but that might be a place to start with the pilot, is to coordinate like a group of department representatives who are already doing this. And then maybe there's some sharing across the different departments of what their experiences have been, what might be needed for like a countywide policy, or what a more formal recommendation countywide could be on something.
So I'm doing a time check. Great conversation. Got 30 minutes left. So I want to kind of circle back and say, back to our original question, do we have enough information to kind of give a recommendation for the amount to CCP? Or going back to what we talked about with the women's program and so what we learned from employment.
I mean, I think I don't want to put words in people's mouths, so please correct me. What I think I heard both of you talk about is employment opportunities outside of the county. And what we have here is designated for like a county pilot. Do we want to change that before we get into answers?
And what I was talking about was both. It's been limited to the county,
Okay.
to county jobs, the county,
Because I think for me, if we diversify the way that these funds can be used, people are gonna use them in the easiest pathway, which is not gonna be the county.
Right.
And if we do want to make a change in this environment, then I would recommend that we narrow the scope that people can utilize these funds. But I hear you 100% about livable wages and high quality jobs. Like I get it.
But no, I said, no, so.
but I also believe in the start point too.
Right.
Yeah.
And a person has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So no, but be giving me that feedback, it wasn't to change it. I am solely on
Okay.
board for the county employment pathway pilot.
Okay.
It's just more of making sure that, as we talked about, there are other pathways behind the scenes, so that person is making sure they understand.
Got it.
Still have tie into the programs that are there, but realistically, oh no, that's very important. So.
Do
we
you
should-
feel that way too? I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Say what you said again?
Don't change that, simplify that, just leave it the way it is. So just ensuring that,
Okay.
Okay.
in our wording, that we uplift that as well. I mean, our focus is in reference to county jobs, there's already.
I think if I can help with some
Yeah.
language, because I think what I was hearing was that, that in the event, or maybe this was added to the conversation, in the event that someone goes through the county employment pathway or pilot does not gain county employment, that they still can have, that they're not just like, oops,
Right.
see ya, we're still gonna continue to work with you, so that you can land somewhere,
Right.
hopefully will still be with a livable wage or a certificate that can be transferable to other counties to make them
Right.
eligible for other county.
Other occupations.
And I'll give a good example of something you said. You talked about, Nicole, you talked about like the Spirit program, for
Right.
example.
Yeah,
That's something that'll get a person entry into the county, but it's also something that get them a job, say at a CBO,
Mhm.
yeah,
at a lot of different places.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
especially with the high demand for peer support.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something that's gonna not just limit them to waiting for the county to hire them, but they'd be able to translate that skill into job, because I did speak about a livable wage, but no wage as opposed to a livable wage, I would always take.
Right.
Can
So,
we request to see how that's structured and inside the Spirit program? Well, I mean, so they have I don't know if they're shared because that's the county, but after they graduate, they go into like some type of county, I won't say temporary position where they're working as peer support, they can actually graduate into a real county job. So I think I don't know who the contract is through. I know they start with the Spirit program at,
So it's behavioral health and Contra Costa College, and it's administered by Behavioral Health's Office of Consumer Empowerment.
Okay. Okay,
And so they work to get on the curriculum, the training.
Right.
It was 12 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe a little.
It's longer than that.
it's 9
Um,
months.
9 weeks.
9 months, it's a long
9
process.
Oh,
Yeah.
forgive me.
Yes,
Okay,
it
yes,
is.
it's pretty long.
No,
Yeah,
there's a stipend.
Yeah, it's a
It's a
stipend when they
stipend.
go to college, and when you get done, you go through a little internship, and when you're done, you actually work for the county as a peer support.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
while that job is waiting, you can actually go work for a CBO, but it gets you, instead of going through all of the hiccups with applying for a county job, it kind of helps. How I look at it, they get to see your work first. And then, look past the other stuff as long as it doesn't interfere with the minimum qualifications. But it opens the door for you to get into that, like, kind of like a social
In
work
reality,
position.
they've given the person the skill set to get that county job.
Right,
Yeah.
Giving them the skills that they need to get that county job.
And that's what's important.
right.
Give them the skills that they need so that they can be competitive in applying. So we do that similarly with our health ambassadors program,
Mm-hmm.
right? We get folks no experience, little experience, they're going to school, they're working to gain the skills that they need to be able to be competitive when they fill out that application.
Are there also employment opportunities at the county baseline is low and like people don't have to have a specialized? Are there like administrative jobs at the county that are just like, I don't know, an entry level position?
Oh, I'm sure there are plenty of entry level.
Just like they identified some of the entry level
Yeah.
positions in Santa Clara, like we identified like the experienced clerk, right? Not a lot of experience required for that entry level position.
But if you want to see across the board, across all county departments, well, that probably will require some research and maybe HR can pull that up pretty easily, I'm not sure. But
Worth the research to identify what positions require little or no experience. You know, high school diploma may be the only, I have seen some movement of some of the county, job descriptions and minimum qualifications there's a mix between, education and experience and that's recent.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So they're hearing you guys.
Yeah.
Keep talking.
Back to
So
the
we have to
question.
do
Yes.
budget, and I think we might have to reframe the narrative a little bit.
For the employment one?
Yeah. And one of the other requests from CCP was to come back with more details on the pilot, is that correct?
And more or less coordinate with EHSD since they were doing a study
Okay.
on that.
But
I
that
know,
hasn't come out yet.
well, I think it was originally scheduled for August 6th, but it didn't happen.
Mhm, got
So I don't
pushed
know
back.
if it got pushed back. So we're still anticipating seeing a study results from them.
So
Are you-
my recommendation.
are you
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, are you talking about the GI?
Yes.
Yeah, so the work group wasn't in alignment with the EHS director's report, so they are going to work further on those discussions and we do a presentation in the fall, and Rachel just raised her hand, so she's on the work group, so she could probably give more detailed response.
Hey, Rachel?
Thanks, Joe. So it wasn't actually an alignment difference between EHSD and the work group. Just to be clear, we worked with EHSD and actually had really productive conversations with them. I personally was the one who was working on the written report on guaranteed income and still am. It was more that we wanted more time on the community side to do the presentation and make sure that we were being representative of all the different community partners that wanted to be part of the presentation. So I just wanted to be clear about that. And then it looks like in terms of scheduling, it's going to be late October, potentially October 22nd for the presentation. And that will be, EHSD is actually doing their presentation on expanding public benefits outreach and enrollment, not really focusing on guaranteed income. They've pretty much kicked that responsibility over to community. And as I said, I have a kind of fully written report that was ready to go. And then we just kind of decided to do something different with the presentation. But within that, just to speak to the CAB priority area, I have focused on the reentry population as a priority population for the board to consider, even though the conversation will be primarily about those Measure X funding. I did include a narrative portion that talks about reentry, the reentry population, how it relates to guaranteed income, what some other cities and counties are doing around guaranteed income for that population. And so that is expected to be part of the presentation. And one of the things that I hope to do now that, as I said, community is kind of taking over the role of the GI presentation is to speak more with members of the CAB and to see if and how they might want to play a role in the presentation to the board, if they would, or some kind of public comment or kind of go through the process. But now we have a little bit more time, in other words, to do that. And we didn't have that much time to do that once the timeline was established for August. So hopefully that makes sense, but I'm happy to take questions too.
I don't know if you're able to share this information. I think I heard you say that EHSD is moving away from GI and more on benefits. Is that the vocabulary you shared?
So they're not moving away so much as we're giving a complementary presentation with the community partners providing information on guaranteed income. EHSD will provide kind of a high level overview of like, what is guaranteed income? They'll share a little bit around its history, but they'll primarily be talking about public benefits and asking for some funding to do some additional outreach and enrollment. And we'll be giving, again, this kind of all came about because of our conversations, but the kind of shared narrative is around expanding and strengthening our county social safety net. So that would include something like guaranteed income, but also what EHSD is proposing. And just to be clear, these conversations all took place starting, I think, end of June or beginning of July. And then, you know, throughout July, we met fairly routinely. The co-directors of Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice were there for a couple of the meetings. Having said that, we have a long way to go from now until October 22nd. And it's been, you know, kind of a little bit of a, I wouldn't say wild ride, but there have been new developments and a lot of things kind of popping onto different people's radar screens and different things reported throughout the county. So it hasn't been like a fully bump-free or transparent process. And we're hoping that it is a lot more from here on out. But everything I'm reporting is what we've done to date. We do have 4 meetings scheduled starting at the beginning of September. So based on those conversations, things could shift, but I wanted to bring you up to date and be transparent about what's happened now. So that's just a little bit more information.
So since there's continued work being done with this, can we continue to leave that money that's there allocated? Because we don't have the information we need to. So I was thinking 2 ways. Since CCP wants us to come back with some kind of recommendation, can we, either just say that as a CAB, we still want to uplift GI based on the data we have right now and pending for additional research and allocate that 1 million? Or do we go, like I said, we would like to add some more time because they're still working. We never got any information from EHSD at all.
I think that's kind of left up to you guys.
Okay,
I
so
was
my
gonna say,
recommendation,
that's
we all have to agree.
Yeah, I
Is
think.
the question, can we or should we?
that's
So,
fair.
yeah, so better, so should we? So what I was going to bring to this table today was to ask both of you all, I always look at you for everything. Ask you both what you like to do. Where I left off personally was just, as I know that we're waiting for information, there were different conversations being had that we were not part of at the particular moment, was to just move forward and say as a cab, we would like to continue with our recommendation, but it's not going to be the 2 men, it's going to be the one. To move forward with GI based on what we have, pending additional research to be provided that's being done with community and EHSD. What is your feedback? Do you want
I'm
to? Or you
comfortable
don't?
with going forward with what we have,
Okay,
the million, because we don't have information enough to add anything
okay.
on top of that.
I'm really torn and frustrated.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. It
I've
feels-
already been through
it
that phase,
feels
so.
like,
Both?
I've been there already.
I mean, CCP is not gonna approve it if they don't have the county support. So if we want to get this $1 million into the population, I think we move it. Because it's just gonna sit there. That's my honest.
So you
Which
want,
really makes me upset because I am a huge advocate for this and think it would be a really great opportunity for the county to pilot this. And it feels like a missed opportunity where the community's voice is not being heard.
I don't want to say that they won't approve it. They gave us an opportunity to do more research. The reason why I didn't want to take it off is because I still wanted to leave it allocated for that. By us taking it off, we're saying, you know, that you guys are not, I mean, I think we still hold them accountable by leaving it there. If we move it and more research is done, there's an opportunity, then we've allocated that money somewhere else. So that was my push on why we're going to leave it there. We really haven't gotten a total no from CCP. At PPC, they were uplifting it for us to do more work with EH. I'm frustrated too. Okay, so
Yeah.
one of my things was I didn't want to move it. We uplifted this. We're not part of what's happening with Measure X and all the other stuff, but we made a good point on why we thought it was there. So my feedback was if we take it away, then we're also missing that opportunity to pull that away from a population that needs it with. Let me ask you, I always want to ask you a question, how long can we leave it there if the
Well, I
research?
think you can make the recommendation, because keep in mind, these dollars, this is one time
Right.
funding from the reserve.
Yeah.
So it's not as if it's not going to be spent some other way, right? You saw that PPC recommended or referred going forward
Mhm.
of the 15 million, the 10 point whatever to move forward, right? That means all the other dollars are just still sitting. So sitting is, especially sitting in a reserve account, is probably a pretty good thing.
Right.
To give you time to kind of consider how else you may want to spend it. The other piece to keep note of, which Rachel mentioned, is that even though what at least the MX cap is pushing for through Measure X dollars, is still to have reentry folks be prioritized. So the population will get touched inevitably, whether it's through the AB 109 one-time allocation or through Measure X. I think more or less you can frame your narrative around what you feel. If ultimately you feel that a guaranteed income pilot that happens to identify reentry folks as the priority population, I think that could likely be achieved in any realm of buckets that's available. That makes sense.
And I have a concern too. Say hypothetically, we don't push this other million. Does the CCP just say, okay, they didn't really do what we want them to do. Now we're going to use that other million somewhere else? And we wouldn't have a say so on what happens to that other million.
I don't have an indication that would likely happen. But I do think you can at least state that you originally planned for this
1 million for GI, you would still like it to be held until more further conversation, comes about. That way it's
To
not
his
lost.
point, though, the last meeting, they allocated $350,000 without.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm thinking.
I hear
like,
you.
What happens to it if we don't? You know?
That's why I said leave
I mean, so you're convincing me. And if we're gonna leave it, I think we should leave the 2 million. I don't know why we would change our narrative then.
So the reason why we was changing the 2 million to 1 million was to allocate additional funding to the other areas.
Yeah. And I think I personally would vote the other way. So they asked for us to come back and have a conversation.
Okay,
And theoretically, they allocated to other areas
Right.
without our suggestion
right.
or.
Well, let me just ask this question. Do you all feel that there's more funding that needs to go to women's services? That's the question. Do you feel like there's more, even though they can't, we don't have to do anything
Right.
in reference to changing it, but based on what was
They're gonna be
reported
real
back,
happy when we
right.
come back. And
what
go
was
and say,
reported,
yeah.
what was reported back to us, having the Jimmer Project come do a presentation with Center Force, giving us information about their recommendations on what their needs are and hear from employment. Do we believe that there's more money that needs to go into those other areas? And remember that that's not Jimmer, excuse me, GI originally asked for 1 and then they asked for 2 and then we approved for them 2.
Mhm.
And I see your hands. I'm sorry, just 1 second.
I mean, do one of you want to answer first?
I wasn't at first, but I'm kind of leaning towards just leaving the other million there. And the reason is because they asked, they presented their reasoning, we said, okay. And the other places where we didn't use the money, where we didn't see that that other money was needed, we didn't see that it was needed, because if we had of, we would have suggested that or proposed that, and we didn't. For whatever reason, we didn't propose other monies to women's programs.
So one of the reasons we didn't propose other monies to women's program, because the bench line that we had was Center Force, right? And so we went off of their actual.
No, Gemma Project submitted a budget of like 300 or 400,000.
It was afterwards, but we left our baseline it was less long. We left our baseline with.
No, it was, he's right, it was,
We did half of it.
it was based on Gemma, but Gemma has just an in custody program.
Ah, okay,
Not
okay,
as the-
Not a whole. But
okay.
then now you hear them coming back saying across the board, we do want to increase to account for more than just like an in custody program, or more than just case managing a few clients, that to have a real robust gender responsive services. They recommended higher than what you allocated.
Right. I'm not more focused on them. I'm more focused on the Center Force, like the need for staffing and what we already have in place. Being able to help women and making sure that I like the idea that you said in reference to each sector, making sure that we uplift in our narrative, gender responsive services.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I have a question. How much are we talking about as far as the recommendation for these women, for the other programs you're talking about? That the CCP said that they believe more should have went towards them. How much are they talking about?
they didn't, they left that to us to figure out.
It was more pointed, I feel, toward the employment piece. And I think that was based on others in the room who have had, other CCP members who have had experience with the county programs that were trying to run something similar. And they felt 1.5 over a 3-year period was just not sufficient.
So why don't we split the money? We recommend 1.2 million to other program and 1.5 to Gemma.
Second?
Why don't we split the million? And 1.5 to Gemma. And you said previously we recommended 1.5 to,
Or the county.
so why not recommend 2 million to them and 1.5 to Gemma?
So just a point of clarification, it wouldn't be to Gemma, it'd
Right.
be like an RFP, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
For women's
okay,
services.
to
To a women's services program.
It's not going directly to Gemma, so it'll be RFP out, anyone can apply for it.
Well, then I think we should split the difference.
Where are you at, Nicole?
I like his idea.
Why does it have to be all or nothing?
It
One or the
doesn't
other?
have to be all or nothing.
It could be
It
anything.
could be anything.
Yeah.
My recommendation overall would be to split it anyway. I wouldn't just give all to one and not to the other.
That make you, is that more comfortable or?
I mean, I think if I were to vote on it, I would say that we should leave it in the GI, because I think that's what we continue to hear from our CBOs and from our community partners. That people need access to capital. I think we already have allocated funds to the employment pilot and to women's services. And if the county really believes that these are priorities, they have the capacity to identify additional funds to support them. And maybe that's where their voice can be heard, but that's where I sit.
So leave as is.
But you guys voted differently.
And I
so
agree
it's
with you
a
100%,
democracy.
but I'm also realistic in that
They're gonna change it however they want.
that's my point.
So then I think that's an opportunity for us to say, then you need to make that decision, because this is what the community is saying.
I would not want to do that. I will prefer.
You won't be the chair anymore. It'll be me.
I know. I mean, if you would like to vote
I'll
on.
throw me under the bus.
If you would like to vote on to this next month and then. You can somebody do it. But, leaving that wide open like that, then I wouldn't want to do that. I would rather allocate it in some kind of manner and not leave them to make that decision on where it goes. Cause they can pull anything off of here.
We can take it all.
Right, but if they were to make a change, they're gonna make it where they tried to tell us to make the change, which would be in employment and women's services. That would be the losing battle.
That's why splitting $1 million to me makes the most sense.
We've already done it if we split it.
Everybody's happy. A rare.
I'm really okay with it moving forward that way.
I'm not voting
But
yet.
then
I'm
we can't keep
just,
an additional funding source have already been identified for GI.
Mhm.
Whereas the
Potentially.
others have not.
Chris, if I could give
Potentially.
$15 million in GI,
They're
I
asking
would.
us to-
Like,
Say that again?
I said, if I could give $15 million in GI to this population, I would. I think that is a path to solve a ton of issues. It creates stability. It allows people the time to train and get into high quality jobs, right? Like,
Why didn't you go to the GI again? Why didn't the GI happen? I'm sorry, I just need to hear, because I'm listening and I just need to know.
we presented this proposed recommendation to CCP. And CCP did not feel comfortable moving forward with that entire allocation.
Okay.
Because there are other departments in the county, please jump in,
That have identified
that are
that.
working on strategies to test and pilot GI.
Okay, so they didn't want this to operate silo from that.
They didn't want to vote on it before all of that information is public.
yeah, to me, those things are theory. The other things, nothing is actually like solid. This is a real thing right now, today, or even next month, or next year. I don't know.
You saying the Measure X funding for the
The-
GI?
How they may potentially use that those monies. It's all theory.
That would be the case for this too.
What are we doing?
I think we just all go. Can we just go with?
Cool.
Please,
Can I leave?
can we just leave?
Can I leave? Can I leave?
Can we just leave? Because, you know, and
was
If
too deep.
Rachel is still on,
I think-
no, it's like she.
I think she-
I was
I'm
gonna
sorry.
ask if she could confirm whether or not Measure X funding has been, if it has been obligated
No.
for GI?
No, that decision was
Okay.
deferred to the presentation at the board that's being delayed.
Okay.
And that's one of to tie on to what he said, why we're in delay as well. So it all. My recommendation is leave 1
But can I-
million.
Can I correct one thing?
Yes,
So it's not, we don't have 2 million anymore. Because they already reduced it by 300 and whatever $1,000, right?
From the total 15,000.
Yeah. So we're talking like 6 something that would be able to be split between those two priorities if you leave 1 million for the GI. I'm getting very
Is
deep.
that the actual case? Because,
it is. They took some of the, oh, go ahead.
no, the 350 I know happened. But didn't you say something about, did they say something about potentially going over that 15 number? Was I mistaken?
I would advise that you continue to plan based on the allocations that you have proposed and let CCP and CAO determine whether or not they're gonna go past the 15 million threshold, since they have to account for that additional 300 something thousand when you all were originally charged to plan for it.
You're saying ignore that 300,000.
I'm saying I think you should continue with the planning process that you had already established.
And we don't need to include that in our recommendation to them.
The 350, we never recommended.
But I
I
wasn't
don't-
my recommendation.
Yeah, it was never part of the recommendation, so I.
Great. Okay, so then you have your 2 million.
Thanks. We'll leave 1 million with GI and split the other million?
Sure.
Okay.
I can compromise.
And see what they do,
Check with your two.
see what happens.
Sorry. We are past our 2:30 mark. Is the rest of the committee okay with staying at this high up? Okay, so to kind of recap, we have to update our the narrative needs to be updated for the employment section and the GI, and then we agreed to leave GI with 1 million and split the other 1 mil between the county employment pilot as well as the women's service in custody.
Is that an even split or?
It's even split.
Okay.
Do we have the narrative on our share drive? Because I think you wanted to make some adjustments to what it said.
The only narrative that you guys have is in the boxes related to these areas.
Okay.
So I would recommend similar to like the memo that you guys put together to accompany that table, you probably want to put it in a memo form to talk about each priority area.
Updated priority.
Yes, each updated priority area, employment, and then
We just want to use the same one we already have? Or just go from there and,
I can create a memo.
okay. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah.
If you need any verbiage for the employment,
Yeah.
feel free.
You know,
And-
okay,
And
great.
I had a piece to add that we forgot to, also notify him of as being Chair of Policy and Budget. You're also my Vice Chair.
yeah, that's part of the job.
You my right hand man.
We'll refer you to.
We're not gonna be able to work with each other.
Hmm?
We're not gonna be able to work with each other.
No, it's just in the event that she cannot make it to chair the full body. and
Yeah.
You will be available. If you're
Got it.
unable to, then you're.
Then Jeffrey's doing it. The question though, for the narrative on the employment pathway, we had talked a lot and we shared a lot of ideas. What is the consensus on how we want to spend this money or how we want to recommend that they spend this money? Is it still a county pathway pilot for entry-level positions that have an abundance of vacancy with the initiative of charging the county to explore how do we get more people into these roles? And is it like we're paying wages? Is that something that the department needs to figure out? What? I mean, I can write a memo, but it'll be what I want it to be. So letting y'all have your voice.
It depends on how fast you want to spend the dollars.
I mean, I don't think we need to pay wages because the county has filled position, like the dollars are
Right.
there in.
I'm not in a rush to. I don't think we're trying to spend it as quickly. There are already things in place right now that are there to kind of help. I mean, our initial goal is to get individuals a job to live, a career. It's the long-term goal now. We have like the program through Rubicon and other things in place to kind of help in the meantime. We want whatever the outcome of this pilot is to be able to give someone sustainable employment to actually have a life.
Can I make,
Yes, ma'am.
While you're here.
Yes, we loved
I would,
it.
I would suggest that, you guys make a recommendation to expand the Season Works program to ensure that justice impacted individuals are served in the current program, right? Because the program is being underutilized. And then if you're talking about a greater thing, then you should look at it as for a model that can be implemented county-wide. But in the short term, expansion.
To just JI.
And if there's funding needed for that.
Okay.
The thing with that though is like, why does, I mean, I think leveraging state dollars to offset wages makes sense. But like to utilize these funds for county wages when the county has dollars allocated for those positions already seems redundant. Like, could it be the CC Works model, except the wages are paid by
The county.
the department? Yeah.
Oh, that's, now you're talking about a temporary employment program where the county is paying for that training on the
Yeah.
job. That's different.
Okay.
If you want that, I think that should be included in your study and a formal recommendation for that. Cause
I
that
think
is
of
what
that.
Santa Clara is,
Yeah,
that is a county funded position.
right. Cause I think my thought is like, you were saying there's entry level jobs that are not filled.
Right.
Right? So why would we bring in dollars that could be utilized like to support these populations to pay their wages? When the department already has wages for that position?
The department or the county does not run a on-the-job training program.
Right.
So
Got
that's
it.
the distinction.
Got it.
My answer would have been as an incentive, to incentivize them to do what we want them to do. Like our monies
Yes.
are the incentive for the county to like partner with this money. Gives them incentive.
It's just
So
$2
you
million
have to
is
think
gonna go like that when you're talking wages for 6 months.
And I think that's why they're saying, that's why they were saying you need to increase.
This lens is not how fast the money will go, how many lives will it impact?
Right, and so I think leveraging county wages and not utilizing this to cover wages would impact more lives. Because then you're gonna be able to spend the 2 million on those supportive actions that create the opportunity for those
Mhm.
people to get into that job.
So then we're not directly funneling it to the county. Then you're talking about a program that trains people for county jobs.
That was the initial recommendation.
Yeah,
So that's similar to what I reviewed in this Santa Clara model. They have a unclassified list of jobs where folks can go in on a temporary basis and work to obtain the skills that they need to eventually.
get into a full-time
It's the Goodwill model.
stable county job.
It goes back to our Goodwill model.
Yeah.
It's the way it was in Goodwill.
That makes more sense to me, you know.
Okay. But can I say back what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yeah.
That we,
Considering you don't want to use these monies to pay for salaries,
uh-huh,
then to me, the only best option in lieu of that is for training to qualify or meet qualifications for those jobs.
great. And we want to mimic the approach that Santa Clara has presented. Right.
No, I was gonna say, if you guys are saying yes to that, where I could probably just reach back out to my colleague over at Santa Clara County and see what was the.
That would be helpful.
Did that answer?
Yeah, are you guys good with that then?
I am.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
One other thing to throw out there though, because in the event that there is some supports that might be needed to work with HR.
We
and
gave them $150,000.
A year?
No.
Goes to one time. Well, I was gonna say money for, or yes, support the HR and then for the convening of different departments to
Yeah.
do that kind of research and things like that. Is that something you want to uplift in this as well?
It's gonna get pulled out anyway, so you might as well.
Yeah.
Is it convene and train? They don't have to train, right?
They'll need to train the departments. It'll be more or less just, getting their feedback, buy-in, things of that nature.
So we didn't get to the other items, but we do need to discuss our next meeting. So I had recommended instead of,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Instead of having, on our last meeting, I had to make a change from Fridays to be here, rather than doing a week. So instead of just, I figured each month, we kind of look at our calendar and see what dates we are available to schedule our policy and budget meetings. That's okay.
I mean, when I schedule them now,
No, what today is my last one.
And I have a lot of flexibility, so.
You can- Don't make me cry, I'm already sad.
oh, I just feel going away, Kate.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to run out to go.
Okay.
Do carpool.
Okay.
But, Mariana is here to assist.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, when do you need the memo by? In a couple weeks?
Yeah, actually, can I email you? the
Yeah,
timeline?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we know the CCP meeting is on the 20th.
We don't need to meet before that, right?
Not if we get everything in place, no, we don't.
That next week. I am completely booked because I'm gonna be in the city for a staff retreat, except for Friday. But you said you can't do Fridays, right?
Well, we can't do the 17th, that's OCEC.
I'm in Michigan that week. And I'm in Wisconsin the week before. That's what I'm saying. My life is like
I know.
right now.
So Gary, on a question, so in the event that Justin is, because I'm still here, so even though I'm not the chair, any event he can't make it, who would then do the meeting for him? It would be Jeffrey? Would I still
Like-
be able to do them?
When you say the meeting, are you saying like facilitate the meeting?
Yeah, would I be able to facilitate like I do at the other meetings?
Yeah, I think it could be either one of you, but maybe Jeffrey, if he wants to step up and facilitate the meeting.
Do we need one in September?
Stop threatening me.
I mean, Chair, it's up to you.
Jeffrey, how do you feel about not meeting until October?
I can't boss y'all around.
Depends on if it's gotta be after the 12th. I'll be out of town
Okay.
from the 1st to the 12th.
I say we cancel the September.
Live with it.
You're booked too. Why are you overbooking yourself?
It's my life.
Gariana, is Patrice gonna be mad at us?
No, it's up
No.
to the subcommittee, how you guys would like to move forward.
Cause what other tasks do we have?
Our work plan.
This
I
year.
mean, we still have time though. We have the work plan and you have to.
And we're not doing any recommendations, right?
Well, you still have to read the recommendation document because it's separate from the AB 109 access funds. So it's just incorporating what we already have and then
Yeah.
determining what you want to remove and or add to it. So we never, in our actual recommendations, we have not uplifted the actual women.
And
get the
specifics
gender
versus-
specific, so we may want to add that. So it's just making adjustments to what we updated last year, and then.
When do
Patrice-
we present that?
November.
Okay,
So
let's do
Patrice-
October.
Yeah, Patrice usually helps with.
After the 12th.
You wanna book it now?
Sure. Send the 12th. I don't even know what day of the week that is.
Where are you going, Jeffrey?
I feel like I don't love me anymore.
Going to
I feel
New
abandoned,
York.
Gary.
New York.
Yeah,
That's fun. For fun or work? Okay,
I've been there. North Carolina to the Outer Banks.
cool. See a Broadway show?
I'm gonna see Hamilton.
Oh, very cool. I saw that in San Francisco a couple years back.
I've always wanted to see a Broadway play
Yeah,
on Broadway.
yeah. The week of the 14th?
Perfect.
Well, we have to ask Garyana, because we have OCEC on the 15th. I'm free on the 16th, and then we have programs to serve. I think the 16th, Patrice and Garyana, that day isn't good for you all on a Wednesday? I think you guys said.
October 16th, I don't have anything scheduled.
Okay. Was Wednesday bad for you? I think it was. Wednesday was bad for somebody.
We could do Monday afternoon again.
Is that a holiday? I see my calendar says Columbus Indigenous Peoples' Day.
It's not a county holiday.
Yeah, it's not.
Say, I'll be at work. You
All
may
right.
be off. I don't know.
I think I'll be at work.
Oh.
I don't know.
I think only
Um,
the federal government still does that holiday.
Do you wanna?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
What time?
What time was this?
Early beach.
At
time.
1,
Oh, I can live with one.
Okay.
All that work you done, Cole.
Y'all just spit me out.
Is
Y'all-
there-
I'm not even important anymore.
Thinking about, our conversation about moving this money around and recommendations and the concern of having CCP just do what they want, is there a way for us to build a relationship with them or some of them where like it's more of a collaborative process than it is us just presenting a final thing? That makes sense. I mean, I guess we're not gonna go through this process again. We're just gonna be doing recommendations.
Build a relationship with who? The people on CCP?
Yeah,
Well, I think that we have one with some of them. We have, Tamia's on there.
Yeah.
Pat's on there, behavior health is on there. So we've, some of them have presented here already, the chief. Only the sheriffs come sometimes, so majority of them haven't even participated in our meeting. Depends on what we mean in reference to building it better, because they're all aware.
I think that's a struggle, and I say that simply because of the 350,000. That they just
Yeah.
are comfortable doing that. So ultimately, they're gonna have their views on
Mhm.
how this money should be spent.
yeah.
We're gonna have ours. All we could do is really just recommend what we recommend
Pretty much,
and
pretty much.
pray if you pray.
I don't, but
Wish.
I'm gonna pray that you start praying. How about that?
okay.
So if we could,
Meditate.
if we could, I guess whatever we missed, add those to our next when it was discussed. Well, no, we covered it
We
all.
covered it all.
We covered it all. So next steps, did you get the next steps, Garyana? The guys
sure-
are moving me out, so.
I sure did. And
Should
if
be
I
a
missed
boys' club.
anything, please let me know. We're going to add gender responsive intentions to all the components and recommendations. We're going to add the recommendation on funding training to meet the qualifications for the jobs, and it's similar to the Santa Clara program. We're going to reframe the narrative for the employment in the GI. We're going to revise the budget. Justin is going to be the chair of CAB Policy and Budget. I'm going to send him agenda items for his feedback and invite him to the CAB agenda planning meetings. We're going to discuss and review Spirit program logistics, research county positions with minimal qualifications or vacant entry positions. And that's all I had. Did I miss anything?
Nope,
Um,
I'm sad.
Patrice is going to send me a timeline for when the new memo recommendation needs to be drafted by.
Okay, I'll make sure I'll send her a follow-up
That would be awesome.
about that.
All right. If that is it, we will adjourn into our October meeting. There will be no meeting in September.
Great.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Let's see, before October, we had the general meeting.